the side you're going to print on. Then there's a rough side. Now, the rough side I discovered is magical for watercolors, and for mono printing, for gel printing. It's just fantastic. So I'm going to show you all of the stuff you can do with it. The package comes, you get 10 sheets. It's 8.5 by 11. One thing I noticed, 8.5 by 11 in Japanese measurements are a little different, I think, because I noticed when I go to my uh, trimmer, I need to trim just a little bit off to get my print, get it in my printer. I don't know if you know that, Phoebe. I just discovered that today. So it's a little bit, in fact, I might have to take a piece of printer paper and just compare it right now. So here's the printer paper that I prepared. You can see it's just got a little tiny extra. So trim it off if you're going to put it through your printer. Otherwise, don't worry about it. All right. So basically, it's got a very nice feel to it. It's fantastic to work with mixed media. So there it is, the paper, and it's kind of an off-white compared to like a bright white. Here's a bright white envelope. I'll show you the envelope here and get this darn thing. You can see the difference. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but on my end, I see a rich, creamy color, but still white compared to this kind of stark white on the envelope. So let me get started on telling you what you can do with it. There's so much. There's so much. So I'm going to kind of go through all these little samples to get my table clear. And while I'm talking about it, the first thing this is my first sample of just testing it. And when I tested it, I just started playing with ink and watercolors. Like this is Gonzai watercolor, the Detail Master pen, a pigmented pen, just plain old watercolor, graphite pencil, watercolor pencil, ink, and watercolor and ink. And one thing I want to tell you about watercolor and ink, when you do the watercolor, you do a watercolor, and then if you do ink, and then if you want to layer another layer of watercolor over it, the Sumi ink does not move. That is brilliant because most of the time when you use Sumi ink, you re-wet it, it's going to move on regular sized watercolor paper. So I'm going to show you that today. It's just fantastic. And another thing it does, so let's say you print it and you want to separate it. This is how you do it. I don't know if you can see my fingers. I'm kind of trying to find the corner. So let's say if you print or you do some artwork on it and you want to have a thin piece, you can actually separate this stuff. Of course, it's not going to do it easy for me today. But anyway, there, if you can see, I'm actually trying with my old eyes to get that part. And of course, I don't have any nails, but so I'm going to separate these. And what I could do is tear. And this part, if you're just very careful, you can take this top layer. You can see that top layer. That would be where your print is or your photo. You're printing a photograph. And then you just remove the backing from it. Okay. So I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I just want you to show you it is removable. And then you have like a translucent thing for doing collage, or if you're going to mount it on a substrate that's maybe like some mat board or something like that. But I wanted to show you that is kind of what the initial thing about it. But there's so much more. So you can do things like you can stamp on it. Here's a little example. I stamped a little teacup thing and then I watercolored in it, and I've got this adorable little card. It's already kind of a cardstock. And I stamped on the rough side actually. So it takes both sides are usable, and then I can do my greeting on the inside. But I just thought that was cute, really cute. I'll probably do some watercolor I prepared one ahead of time, but I just think that's just fabulous. Just something really simple and fun. And then this was like my first thing. These, I just did a very light wash on the smooth side. This is on the smooth side. So it takes watercolor differently on the smooth side than it does on the rough side. And I just did a very light ink wash with some metallics, and then I did my lettering, and with the Detail Master pigment liner. And what you notice when you look at it, the ink does not bleed. It takes the ink really well. It takes very nice line, makes nice crisp lines, and I just love it. I just love it. So that I made those, and then I played around with graphite this is on the smooth side, and it takes graphite fabulously. Very nice. I was able to blend it with a blending stump, and then you can do watercolor wash over it. Just a simple thing, but you know, it's just something that you can do with it. The other is, here's the thing that I flipped out about. Okay, and I'll keep going, of course. I found this is the smooth side and this is the rough side. Look at that watercolor wash. I cannot get watercolor to do that on my regular paper. I just think that turned out fantastic. And then what I did was I thought, well, I thought I did it again on another piece of paper, another piece of wash of the Mashi, and I folded it in half. I also did the other side. So watercolor wash on the smooth side, watercolor wash on the rough side, and then I just did some fussy cut flowers and then did some hand lettering. But wow, I love the way this feels. Now I'm going to have to tell you, the paper does buckle. It likes to wave, and I always flatten because, I see how nice and flat this is. The way I flatten it is after I've worked on it, I spritz it with a little water, very, very light amount, like a super fine mist spray, and I put it in between. This is how I always do it, like this with this is that deli paper. And I put that and I just flatten it. And I have book press, but you can put it underneath something. You can put it underneath a mat or in between heavy books or in a phone book, anything, and leave it dry completely for a while. Well, hello from Norway. I'm just saying, and also Nancy's here. Wow. I'm just saying hi to Sheila, and wow, that's so awesome. So thank you. The quotes, and people ask me where I get my quotes, and there's no mystery. I Google. I just Google it. And how I do it is I think if I have something like this picture, I had it like this, and I thought, okay, what is this thing? What am I thinking about? I'm thinking about love and hearts. So I just Google love quotes or quotes about hearts, and then boom, I find a bunch of stuff. And then I just kind of browse until I see the one that I like, that works for what I want to do. Okay, so that's one. And then these I did the other day, which I'm going to show you today. These are two identical or very similar paintings, right? One is done on the rough side. This is the rough side. One is done on that smooth side. And if you see closely, I don't know if you see it, but the way it accepted the watercolor is completely different. And you'll see it when I demo it. So that's what I love about this paper. It just whatever mood you're in, you can get an effect that you like. Now I just did this so you can see. I kind of open it up and do the painting, and then I fold it, and then I flatten it. Because if I don't flatten it, it's going to get wiggly and wobbly. So, and let's see. I'm going to keep going. Okay, I'm going to go in the order of which I created these. So this is some watercolor washes, and I'm going to show you these. This is done on the rough side, and this one's done on the smooth side. And I was just doing a comparison to see how how it accepts the watercolor. And then this one I did watercolor and ink over, and this I did with a pen filled with acrylic ink. And I'm going to just show you one of those. I'll show you that today. Just makes a really nice little bookmark. And I may go over this in maybe with some layers of white or some metallic watercolor or something. I'm not finished with this one yet. That one's finished. This one I did this morning before I went to radiation. I thought I need to do something. So I did a watercolor wash, which I'm going to show you how I did. And in fact, I prepared it ahead of time because this is done on the rough side. So I'm going to show you how I did it today. But, and then after it dried, I did ink, Sumi ink leaves in a metallic over top. I just think that's so pretty. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I was going to put it on a greeting card, but I may do something more special. I don't know. I may put a quote on the back. You know me, I can't leave things alone with that because it seems to I need to have a quote everywhere. So that is that one from this morning. Now this is from, I took this is a print actually from the Collage Soup collection. If you, one of the ebooks from the Collage Soup collection, you can print out your books or on any paper you want. Well, I printed it on the Mashi Hosho, and it is it is great for printing. Now I put this in with the smooth side to be printed on. So that's that. And I just thought that was cool. It printed out really nice and clear. And then a little while ago, I painted, or I didn't paint this. This is a mother sheet that I had scanned, and then I printed it on the Mashi Hosho. And I plan to take this one and open it, like take it and separate it, because I want to do some collaging with it, and I want like little thin pieces that I can like layer over, over it. But I'll do that later. Anyway, isn't that gorgeous stuff? It almost looks like the original collage. Excuse me. Another thing I'm going to show you today is gel printing. It is fabulous for gel printing. This is some paper I did this week. I printed on both mostly the smooth side. I think I might have done some samples with the rough side, but I'm pretty sure I used the smooth side only. Yeah, looks like it. And I just think these are incredible and just fantastic. It's amazing what it takes. Now, I'm going to show you how I did this today, but I also want to show you how you can use both sides. So this one, and I'm going to show you right now because I might as well, actually, I got to do this in sequence, otherwise I'll never, I won't get through this. So I'm going to take a piece I cut these in quarters, I thought. So I've got this little teacup. I've got a piece that I have just plain, and I've also primed for fun. I thought it'd be fun to, if I can feel it, I did some watercolor medium over the smooth side to see what it would happen. And I'm going to test that with you guys. I've never done it before, but we're going to see what happens. All right. Okay, so there we go. I've got some samples to play with, and I'm going to first do the wash on this just to show you. And this is the unsized. I did not put anything on this. This is not treated. I'm going to grab some watercolor. And if you have questions, please chat. Oh, yeah, the radiation. Yeah, well, it's so far so good, my Deb. So far so good. Yeah, I've got 3 down. I have 13 more to go, and I am done. I'm done, done, done. Time for a new adventure. So now I'm going to do this little wash, and I'm going to take yeah, and I also, before I move on to this, I'm going to talk about, it's fun to do fussy cut with this paper because it is a cardstock. But if you want to peel off that extra little like backing, you can do that and have a thinner collage piece. So I'm not doing it now because I don't want to bore you with that because you have to separate it with your fingernail and then pull that off. But then I've got either a cardstock fussy cut flower or I can have a thin collagey, thin something I can layer. But these are some things I did earlier. This is actually done through a stencil, and I'm going to show you that today. So keep moving on because I got lots to do. So I'm going to do a wash, and I'm just going to pick some colors. I'm going to grab my water. I'm going to grab my brush. Now I could use either a flat brush or a round brush. And I think I get less control with the round. This one tends to make me the flat one's great, but I'm just gonna use the round one because I get a lot looser that way. So I'm gonna do a mixture, and I'm gonna kind of switch to warmish colors because I'm always going for the blues. Why, I don't know, but I always am. But I'm gonna kind of go warmish. So I'm gonna take I think a sepia, which is this color, and I'll probably just start with a little sepia. And I may do a little indigo and maybe some burnt sienna. Let's see, that's the 5th one over. Yeah. So it's always good to kind of make a little puddle of what you're going to use so that you can do a wash quickly and it doesn't have streaks. But I think this little combination of colors right in there is going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and start with I'll just mix that up. Yeah, I'm going to just a light wash. I don't want to make it too saturated. I'm just going to I've got the rough side up, and I'm just going to do kind of a little wash like this, just back and forth, and then I'm going to pick up another color, back and forth, very peaceful. I'm going to grab the whole thing here. Very just wet, but I don't want a dry brush, and I'm going to go throw the blue in a little bit. It's on my palette. I might as well just use it. Because really, I'm just kind of staining the paper. I don't want it to be too dark. It's maybe too much already. I'm gonna put a little bit more of this burnt sienna warm color. And I'm just gonna go to the edge, right? And then what I usually do is I turn it over and I kind of finish off just to give it this kind of a similar look. So there, I've got my little wash. I'm gonna let that dry. That's why I'm moving this off because now this is going to dry. It's going to take a while. I don't want to bore you with, that. It's like nobody wants to watch paint dry, right? So I'm going to set this somewhere where I can come back to it. And I'm going to I'm going to move this over and I'm going to show you how easy, really quick, because this is so easy. I'm going to show you how easy it is to just color in a stamped image. And I'm just going to go quickly with maybe, this time I am going to use some blue. And I don't want it too dark, but I'm just going to go with a wash. And I'm going to just do the whole thing. Just like a very light wash of blue over the stamp. This is like, talk about easy, right? So you can just tint your stamped images. You don't have to go into every little detail if you don't want to. You can always go back over it with like a light ink or something. I think that would be fun. Maybe I'll take this sepia color or that some reddish color here. What is that one? I don't know. That's burnt sienna. Okay, we like that brownish color. I'm going to just take that, kind of make the wooden table look kind of like a wooden table. And see how simple that is? And then maybe a little more blue in this little part right here in that blue plate special. And that's it. I mean, you could do more, but then, details, sometimes it's good just to go quickly. And I'll let that dry and it will flatten out eventually, or I'll flatten it. Now, the thing I wanted to share with you while that wash is drying, or what I could do, yes, I'm gonna do this because I've already got this thing ready. Might as well do it. And then I'll get to your gel printing too. So I've got this is the one I did earlier today, and I'm gonna just take some Sumi ink. And what I love about this, and that's gonna have to dry to show you the next thing. So that's why I'm glad I'm doing it now. Okay. Now the Sumi ink, I'm using let's see, all-purpose brush S2W, 2O, I mean. I love this brush because it makes the best lines and it's just wonderful. So I'm going to take this is the KF series ink. I love it because I can use this little bit as a brush rest. And I'm going to just go ahead and do some leaves. You know I love leaves, right? And you love leaves, I hope. It's fun. And it's just, makes doing it this way is the best way, I think. So I'm just going to start it, my line from the growth going up, and I'm going to kind of just go up to there. And I'm kind of letting it be loose. I'm not going to think it. And I'm going to make my first leaf, and I start like this. I just sort of start at the base, and I just kind of wander, and I make my lines a little thicker on the outside. And then I'm going to take this, maybe the second one, I'm going to take and bring up from here. I'm going to go up to make the stem like that. And then I'm just going to make the leaf like so. And really, any way that you want to make a leaf is your choice. But this is kind of showing you what I like to do. And then
And
I'm going to
Karen,
take,
while you're working on
yeah,
that, Jill was asking if you could talk a little bit more about what Mashi Hosho paper is like. And I know you mentioned it in the beginning, but could you just talk a little bit more about what the paper is like as you use it?
yeah. So the paper it's fabulous to work on. It's thick enough. It is a rice paper, or we traditionally have called rice paper. This side I'm working on is the rough side. So there's a smooth side and a rough side. And the paper it's meant for doing what I'm doing right now, using ink, and it's also great for printing. For printing with a commercial printer. There we go. Yay! I love that. So I'm gonna let that dry. It's like a cardstock. So the difference between most, white rice papers or washi papers, they're always thin. They're always very delicate looking, even though they're not delicate because there's a lot of fibers that make them strong, much stronger than most papers, because most papers are made with short fibers. These have long fibers, and they're very resilient, and they tear kind of evenly. In fact, I should tear some of it just for fun. I'm going to put this ink brush here. I'm going to stick this here so I don't contaminate my water. And let me just take a piece of this paper. I hate to do this, tear it, but you know what? I want you to see how it tears. So I'm going to set this aside and then let that dry. And when that dries, I'll go back to that. But this paper, so there it is. It's got this nice crisp feel to it. Rough on one side, smooth on the other. Print on this side, paint on that side. but I'm going to tear it, and it's very strong, but look at the tear. I'm getting this beautiful. Oh, well, it's like, it has, I don't think there's a grain. Let me see if maybe there is. Let's see. No. See there, and there's a second layer. This is meant to be layered. So that's how you probably separate them, by the way. So you've got, if you want to take them apart, you just find the two layers, because this is two layers. There's this layer that I just tore off, and then it's not easy to take off, but there we go. Okay, so they basically, it's two layers. Top layer is here. Okay. Okay. So it's got this crisp, almost Torinoco feel, it's got shiny almost, see? I don't know if you can see that, but it's got a shine to it. And then the other side is very matte and more like a cold press texture. And it's very water resistant. So like if I even dipped it in water, let's see what it would happen. Kind of curious. So you get me going here. I'm going to dip it in water and see what happens. I want to see how strong it is in water. So I'm thinking, ooh, I'm seeing some possibilities that I never thought about now. But wow, I'm seeing some image transfer. Oh boy, oh boy. Okay, so this fiber is coming off really easy. So if I were to do an image transfer or like an acrylic, using an acrylic medium, I could dip it in the water and then just rub it off and the image will be there. We're going to do that sometime, but see how it's just coming off? I'm able to rub that off. So the image that's on the other side will remain. Oh yeah. Okay. So it's a very interesting paper that I think has a lot of uses. Okay. So I tore that up. Oops. Shouldn't have done that. All right. So I've got the watercolors drying, and I hope that answered your question. Kind of maybe went too far even. So I'm going to bring out a gel plate because gel printing is like the most fun. I'm going to move this over here so I don't dirty that up here. Okay. Now what I did, I got this technique and I watched Marsha, I think it was Marsha Volk. I hope it was Marsha on Jelly Arts. If it's not Marsha, I'm sorry. Bridget Coopson, it would have been one of the two. Maybe Bridget. But the Jelly Arts people, they always inspire me because they on Instagram they do their thing, and then I go, oh, I gotta try that. So what I have are these stencils that I love. These are from Joggles. Um, these are I'm not sure who this is. This is Elizabeth St. Hilaire. I'm not sure which this one, possibly that would be hers too. I couldn't guarantee it. But what I did was I took my stencil here. Now I'm going to do it. I'm just going to show you a quick demo of this technique and then show you how cool it is. So you take a piece of, just going to grab a piece of copy paper, plain old copy paper, nothing fancy. Okay. And what I do is I stick it over the stencil like that. Okay, I'm going to pick the stencil that I want to do. I'll do this one because I already have a sample of one done. So, of course, these things, if you're not careful, they get tangled up because they're very interesting. They have interesting, delicate little pieces here, and you just have to be careful when you're removing them. Nope. And this has been used a while. I don't clean my stencils. I think they're fabulous. And after a while, they get so many layers of paint. I'll probably use it in a collage and have to buy a new stencil. But that's how I roll on that. Okay, so I lay it down on a flat surface, put my copy paper over, and I'm going to use the Niji Artist Crayon, which it is a wonderful product just for doing this technique. And I've got two things happening. I'm going to be decorating this paper, but I'm also doing something that's going to create a resist for the Mashi Hosho. So I'm just going to you can see all I'm doing is I'm getting, I'll use a different color. Why not? Use some blue. I like the blue a lot. And I just want to keep my hands on that so I don't move the stencil that's underneath. You can tape down your stencil or tape your papers to that, but just give it a good coating. Nice flat, just take off take off the wrapper and then just lay it flat. You don't have to use blues, I'm always doing blues. You can use any color. You can even use white, but you can see what you've done if you use a darker color. So now you have this, right? And then this is the fun part. Okay. And now I've got my stencil, or not my stencil. I've got my plate. It's sitting here. This is just a 8x10 gel plate. I like it because on the 8.5 by 11, there's a little border it leaves. But they do have 9 by 12 plates, and I can't wait to get those. They're sending me those because I want to have borderless gel prints on my washi paper. Now let's just do this for now. So I'm going to do a dark, I'm going to go layers of dark. So I've got Payne's Gray, Jenkins Green, and Phthalo Blue. I'm going to just use dark colors. I'm in a very small amount. I've got my brayer, and I need to have a piece of paper kind of ready here. So I'm just going to take, there we go. Now I'm going to show you the difference. This pattern has a lot of, lots of pattern. You see there's a lot of open spaces. This one has too much closed in space. So I wouldn't recommend doing it with a stencil that has a lot of detail like that. Just a heads up. So I'm going to take my paint and I'm going to do it on. And I'm looking at time, and yeah, we got plenty of time. So I'm just going to do, this is the Payne's Gray. Just going to put a little bit, don't need a lot. And I'm going to put a little Jenkins Green like this. And I'm going to do a little phthalo blue just because that needs that transparent pop. Okay, like that. I might do a little more gray. And just maybe one more drop. Okay, just like that. Then I'm just going to roll these together. I'm just going to kind of roll it until I get this nice dark, deep blue-green yumminess. And I'm not going on real thick. If you can see, I'm kind of going on pretty thin. Okay, like that. Okay. And then I'm going to take my paper that I just crayoned. Okay, that's just the copy paper. I'm going to stick it right on top like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another piece of paper and I'm going to roll off that extra paint because, we need to have a clean thing. And then I'm just going to do this. Going to feel, you can do it with a Baron, which I like doing with my hands because I can really feel it, you know. Oh, golden paints. Yes, yes. Golden paints. Oh, and I also want to tell you about, if you don't know, I'm using also Holbein acrylics. Holbein acrylics are fantastic as well. And then that's on the high end. But if you want to go for something cheap, Liquitex Basic, just fine. I don't really like the craft paints, like the Americanas and all that. They just don't have the transparency. I like luminous paints, so I like a little better quality. So now I'm going to lift this up. There's a little, see how that pattern's left on there? It resisted. There's the pattern. And then I have this nice little print. I'm going to save that. I might have left it on too long, actually, but oh well. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to just go ahead and do my print. Thing about gel printing, it's never very predictable, I guess, unless you spend like a lot of time doing it and you know what you're doing. But I'm an occasional jelly printer, so I don't do it as often as I'd like. So there we go. So now that should be dried. It probably is because it looks like it is. I'm going to go with a lighter color. Like this is a aqua blue and maybe some sky blue. That's very close to the same, and some white. Oh no, maybe that color. That's a light blue violet. And I'm just going to put a little bit on. And you can always do layers, it doesn't have to be, I don't have to do a perfect thing because you can always layer on the jelly plate, always. You don't have to have, it's not always perfect, so you can always go over it. And I've got this. Anyway, it's just one way of dealing with maybe not messing up your stencils, right? So I have probably too much paint on there, so I'm just going to roll off a little extra. And I always use my paper that's my roll-off paper, I call it. I love it because it can be used for prints later on. So there's that. I'm just going to lay this on top. I'm going to use the smooth side of my Mashi Hosho. And that I'm going to let sit. I'm not going to touch that for 10 minutes. So I'm going to move this off to the side and we will see this in a little while. I just need to get it nice and on there. And then I'm going to move it out of the way and then we'll come back. And we'll come back to it. So right now I've got all right. This one is already dry because I did This is the one I did earlier, but this one's still drying. So I want to show you, see how it bows a little bit? But I always just spray the back of it after it's done. I spray the back and then I flatten it, and then it will be nice and straight. So I'm going to use some, I've got to show you this paint, well, this paint tray. I told Phoebe I was going to bring in some fancy stuff too. I have this metallic watercolor that is just amazing. It's called the, oh gosh, Art Authority, I think. This is called Nebula. I don't even remember who the it's terrible. I buy so many art supplies. It's ridiculous. So I'm going to use the number 2, but you can use the number 3 infusion. I think if I can find my 3, I don't know if I have it on so close. I just looks like I only have my 2. Nope, the 4 would be best. So got my 4, and I'm going to take some of this nebula color. And I want to share this with you because normally, if you were to take Sumi ink and do it on a watercolor pad paper, you would just go over it and it would sort of, bleed, right? It would just dissolve, and then you would have that unfortunate smear or schmear, and you don't get that with this. I'm going to put this color, I love that color, whatever that is. It's so pretty. Just going to add a little bit of that to it. And I'm just going to do a little layering, and I'm just doing it like this. And now see, I'm going right over it, and it's not budging at all. I did this morning, and it was so satisfying. I'm just going to put some darker metallic. And this metallic isn't too glittery it doesn't overwhelm you with metallic. It's just the most pretty color. And I don't know, it's called Art Authority. I got it on Etsy, but any of the handmade metallics that you might see on Etsy or on Instagram, they're always fabulous. There's a hydrocolor, beautiful colors. Might as just try them all. It's what I believe. Try them all. So I'm just putting this watercolor over those leaves, but I'm going over the ink and it's not smearing. That was the thing I wanted to share. That's so special about that. I'm gonna put a little gold too. Just why not? A little extra gold. Just kind of put that in maybe some spots here and there. And this is always more magical after it's dry. It just looks so much better. But you see how the ink just didn't move. The Sumi ink is right there. I love that. So that's kind of wanted to demonstrate that. And then usually I do a thing, and I think I've showed you all before, but I'm going to re-show you. But this is the ink that I like to use instead of the stuff that stuff that's toxic. I use this. This is Ranger. It's archival ink, carnation red. There's another red, but there's a red geranium, and that's okay. But I like the carnation red. So I'm going to grab my little eraser, and you remember we did these some time back. I have to decide which one I want to use. I think it's this one. I might even have one. This one I got in Japan, but you have to use with a whatever you call it. I'm going to do 2 things, and maybe somebody can tell me what this says. I hope I know. At least I know that's right set up. I got this in Japan, but I think it'd be fun to do like a double seal. Let me show you a double chop. So I've got my initial here. All right, like this, and I'm just going to put it where you should put it. What makes sense in your composition? Like you don't want to just stick it down here. You kind of look at it, look at your composition, and go, where do I want that? How would it enhance this thing? So I'm going to just do this. I think it should look okay there. Yeah, it's okay, but let me do one more thing. I'm going to add that extra, this one here. Just needs a little something. And somebody then can read it for me later. All right, there it is. Oh, and it's not complete, but better to leave that alone. Incomplete's better. But it kind of added a little something. And maybe somebody who reads Japanese, please tell me what it says. I hope it doesn't say eat at Joe's or something. All right. So somebody said, see the video description. Karen is using too many items. Yeah, no kidding. You know me.
Me, yes, I'll just take a moment to say it out loud. I was updating a list of items that Karen was using in the pinned comment. It won't fit in the pinned comment anymore, so you could just check the description box and I'll be updating it there.
There you go. I know I kind of overdo it on too many, but sometimes it's, simple is good, but sometimes it's getting you excited. But this is going to look so good when it dries. And I love that subtle wash in the background, the vibrant black, that ink. You can't get that with just pigmented ink. It's got to be the Sumi ink. And if you don't have this, this is the stuff right here, the KF2 or the KF series. You can get a bigger jar, but I like this one. So there, that's that. Okay, let's go back and let's see how our gel print is doing. Let's see. Let's see. Hopefully you'll be able to know it should be out. Yep, it's lifting all off. Yes. Now I'm gonna have to be careful when you lift this because you want to make sure you don't peel the paper off. But this stuff seems really strong. Oh yeah, looks pretty. And this is just one little layer. I didn't get my stencil dirty at all, so I didn't ruin my stencil. But one little layer. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Now I could do something else because I want to try something. Because that's pretty, but I think I could do the other side, or I can continue on this one, but I want to try something. I just feel the urge. It's sort of funny. I got to do it. All right. I'm going to do a little of this phthalo. Now I'm going to do Jenkins green. I feel the urge to do this. I'm going to put a little Jenkins green on there, maybe a little more than I did last time. I'm going to go ahead and, yes, that's a pretty green because I'm always doing blues and I'm trying to change my color palette a little bit, try to warm it up a little. That's a little too, see how kind of it's sort of gliding over? That's too much. So I'm going to just kind of roll off some of that. We don't want that much paint. I might have kind of overdid it. It's okay. All right, good enough. Let me just, yeah, I'm gonna just do that. Now I'm gonna take my stencil. This time I'm going to use this other stencil that I had somewhere. There it is. I love this stencil. I'm gonna just stick this on there like so, right there. And then I'm gonna stick this paper, because I don't want to, oh, I know what I'm gonna do. Okay, I'm gonna stick this one. This has got some crayon on it from, you saw me do that. I'm gonna put this crayoned one. And the reason I'm doing that is I want some of that resist to go on, and I better roll up my sleeves. I'm getting stuff everywhere. I'm gonna roll my sleeves up. Okay. Never good to have long sleeves when you're doing this. Okay. Now getting in there. This is where I love a little session of gel printing because you can stand up. I'm sitting, but normally I stand. Okay. Now I'm gonna make sure all those bits are in there, and I've got this really cool print with the green. And it's
Wait,
hopefully gonna,
Karen, Deb
yes,
was asking, what paper are you rolling off on?
just plain copy paper. But if you want to do something cool, you could do it on like our 6H. Sometimes I roll off on 6H because then I've got rice, washi paper also. Look at that gorgeousness there. It's very pretty. Okay, that has got to sit for a minute, so gotta let that dry. I don't want to disturb it. So it needs to dry. I'm going to put that down. I'm going to go back to this. I want to show you a little wash. I'm going to show you something because I've not done anything yet. This is the stuff I sized with here it is. Daniel Smith transparent watercolor ground. And the reason I did it with the transparent is it doesn't alter the color of the Mashi Hosho because it's an off-white. So I didn't want to put a stark white um, ground over it. But I want to see the difference with here we go. This size is not, it's not done. Treated, this size is. And I'm going to do a wash over the whole thing. Just want to see. This is the time to experiment because when I'm with all of you, I tend to kind of experiment more than when I'm just sitting here by myself. That's the thing about being when you're around other people, even though we're not together physically, we are virtually. I know you're there. I mean, I don't know how many of you, but I know you're there. 64 of you so far. It's like having a room. I'm imagining a room of people watching. It's kind of good. It's a good for the spirit. It makes you more creative and more experimental because I feel your energy. So thank you. So I'm going to just do a wash over both. This is the treated side, and this isn't. So here we go. I'm just going to do see what happens. Okay, let's just see. This is the smooth side, just so you know. Now, interesting. I'm noticing that I really feel that I like the non-treated side. So, don't need to use watercolor wash or watercolor ground. Interesting, isn't that? I love it. I'm just going to do the same color. It's the indigo. It's going to dry differently. I'm trying to be exactly the same as far as how I'm applying it. I've got a very wet brush. I'm just kind of dragging it over once. I'm not trying to overdo it. And I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to finish it off here like this, like so. Then I have something to work on later. But here you'll see what's happening already. The watercolor is absorbing into the treated side and leaving kind of a granulated look, which is very nice. This is also leaving a granulated look, but it's sort of floating a little bit more. I might even have to do a little siphoning of the color here just to get that out of the way. And always I like to use a paper towel to do that. So I take my paper towel and I just kind of, just sop up that extra watercolor. I'm just gonna let that be. Let it be. I like that. We'll let it dry, and I think that's really cool. They're almost the same. I mean, it's really hard to tell the difference. Interesting. Okay, now we might have had time to let our gel print dry. So I'm going to put this. I think we've done it. We've let that dry. And move this out of the way. I need a bigger table. Okay, this it doesn't look like it's very strong. Oh, I know what I'm gonna do. I've got some silver that I want to throw in there if I can find it. Silver, silver, where are you? Oh, maybe I can't find it. Oh, nope. I don't know what I did with it. So I'm gonna use white instead. It's okay. White and some light blue. I'm gonna go very light, and maybe some of this light blue here. Like so, just a touch of it, not much. A little thin. Oop, come on. Thin amount. There, that's probably too much. Once again. All right. Yeah, way too much. Okay, there we go back to rolling off. So this is too thick. So what I'm going to do is I've got to find find a piece of copy paper and I'm going to roll that excess off. But like I said, you can just roll off all kinds of on your thinner papers. Even some of our the really super thin, what's it called? 6A, which is the really thin washi practice paper. I'll just lay this on top and I'm not going to move it. Now there is Jelly Arts makes a positioner. I'm kind of faking it here. I'm just going to try to put it over the same, but Jelly Arts does have a positioner and I don't run to use it, which I should, because it would help you to have, make, there's a word for it, registration. It will give you, if you want to do layers, multi-layers, and you want to have them all lined up, you can do it that way. This one's going to sit. Same thing, I'm going to take this and have it sit. Yeah, we all need a bigger table. I need the whole house. It's like, okay, I've got this room, but I can also take the house over. It'd be nice. That has to sit until it dries. It's going to take a while. Okay, so we've got time. Yep. So I'm going to go over. I'm going to show you how I did this little guy. I'm going to bring in. There we go. There it goes. So this one I prepared. This is a bookmark that I started, and I did the wash of watercolor just like you saw me do already. And this one I thought would be fun is to take one of these. It's filled with black acrylic paint. It's one of those little dispensers. You can buy these on Amazon. They just come empty. Some people put masking fluid, and this is just a thinned out acrylic paint. So I'm going to just start here, and I'm going to start like making a line, going up, and it's got made a little skip. Oh well. I'm just going to make like, kind of like a little botanical thing, I guess. That reminds me of my stencil that I designed. I have this little stencil that looks like this. And just kind of be wonky about it. Don't be, it's not supposed to be perfect. There we go. Wonky, kind of non. In fact, speaking of wonky, there is a course that Wendy Sulganic does called Wonky Bits. And she shows people how to do something like this that's just fantastic. Oh, there it is. So that is all. I'm gonna let that dry. It's gonna stay raised and I can add some other things to it, but you can do this also with Sumi ink. So let's say, where did that go? Where's my little piece here? I'm gonna just do, you can do the same thing with the Sumi ink, which I showed you over here, basically. There. Now there's one more thing I wanted to show you because I don't want to skip out. I want to make sure you get all the goodies. I'm gonna put that aside, put that aside. And one thing I wanted to show you was how fun these are to go to work with stencils. So let's say you don't feel like drawing and you're kind of nervous about drawing and you want to do something like, the same idea, but something like here's a stencil. I think this came, I'm not sure who this is. It doesn't have a marking on the stencil. Darn it.
Good question again, Karen. Deb
Yeah.
is asking, what is inside the needle bottle?
Just black acrylic paint. Black acrylic paint. That's it. That's what's in there. So I would suggest, because I can't really give you a tutorial on that, that's something Wendy could do, but she has the formula on how to do this. It's incredible. You can try to do it. It'd be a lot of experimentation, but Wendy has the formula. But I just used black acrylic paint and stuck it in the bottle. And there's different things to do to make this work. And I would seriously, it's a worthwhile course. It's called Wonky Bits. It's really amazing. She is an incredible teacher, and the course was it was like under $40. It was fantastic. So, and it kind of got me, it just gets your creative juices going, I'll tell you. Okay, so here we go with this. I'm gonna just grab my little. Look, this is our little essential set. This is the mixing set. Niji. Got all the colors you need to mix without making mud, which is what I love. And I'm going to take the green, and what I'm going to do is kind of make a blue. I can make blue and green, make a green just by mixing the yellow with the blue. You can see how I did that. That's what's great about this set. You can't make mud. You can try, but you can get a dark color, but you can't make mud. I just love it. Now, I love this fusion brush for this technique because it is a flat brush and it's not too, doesn't have a lot of hair like some of these brushes. Like this little, see the difference in the fatness here? This is a Da Vinci and it's got like a squirrel hair. This gets really wet and then all the paint gets underneath. This does not because it's got a nice flat, it doesn't absorb too much water. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start my little thing. And I'm going to go like just kind of, you know, just a light touch. And then I'm going to grab some of the kind of the gray sort of to go up the stem. Or maybe I should use some of that. It's red. I mean, heck, I don't want it to be perfect. There we go. But you can make it wet or I mean, the more wet you get, you'll have more stuff seeping underneath, but it's just fun to try putting a stencil. I've got some yellow. And what I'm noticing about this paper, and I noticed this when I was working on it, when I noticed that it doesn't, you see the lines are nice and crisp. On some of the watercolor papers, I get these just blobs of watercolor that just, it just doesn't look that clean like that. So the Mashi is great for that. And then I'm going to let that get my little ink out. And this is what I love about this. So right now it's a stencil. It looks like a stencil. Should let it dry, but I'm going to kind of go quickly here. And I'm going to show you. So if you take as I let that ink dry, it should there is a little bit of PVA in this ink. So if you let your brush dry, you'll have to spend some time getting that PVA out. But let's see if I can do this. So now I can just take my ink and it's wet, so we'll see what happens. And I'm just gonna, yeah, it bleeds a little, but that's all right. And I'm just gonna kind of do like a little, it's just a base. That stencil is just the base of something. Doesn't have to be. Look at that. See, that's the PVA. It's a little glob there. And then just kind of outline it. But it doesn't have to be perfect outline. You can make it as imperfect as you want. Like there we go, outside the lines. And that actually gives it a more interesting look, I think, than just trying to trace it exactly. Plus, it also takes a stencil that someone designed, and now it's just a base, so now it's your own, you've got your own signature there, your own touch. There it is. And then I'm going to do a really bold line down, right just down here, fill it up first, and just do like a nice bold black line. And so you can see how that ink is blending or bleeding into the wet watercolor. And if I wanted to a crisper line, of course, I would have done, I would have waited for it to dry. So I'm going to do a little origami kind of thing going on here. So I think, what should I say? What could we say? A quote, someone, a quote. I'm just going to do a hand lettered thing, but I have to think about the space. I don't have a lot of space. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to go, the word, my favorite word is love, and I'm just going to do it in very wonky love. And then, so I'm just doing like a little origami-ish. It's not really origami, but it is close enough. And I'm going to put love your life. This is the only one we've got, right? And there we go. Yeah, there it is. So then I can send that off or whatever. I don't have to, but I can send it off. I can wait for that to dry and I can add things later. Like I may add some light things or details or something like that. But then let that dry and we'll go from there. But I think, oh, let me just take this off. And then if there's any questions, because I've pretty much gone over everything I was going to do. I don't think I missed anything. Let's just, we're going to reveal this little print and see what it looks like. Okay, here we go. Here's the reveal. Do, 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 do. Oh, yeah. Oh, isn't that pretty? So you can see. Oh my gosh. There's something about gel print lifting that just gets me going. Oh my gosh. Now, you'll see some of the resist from the crayon has created a pattern underneath. And lovely, lovely. Now this is only 2-layered print. This looks like I did several layers, more than two. And I've got a clean plate. I don't have to clean that plate. There it is. Isn't that gorgeous? Gorgeous, gorgeous. Can't wait to use it in something. This would be a great book cover material. I mean, book cover paper. And if it's because it's on the thicker side, and if I wanted to wrap it around a cover, some chipboard, I would take the back off and have it thin. But otherwise, there it is. How's everybody doing? I'm so glad that everybody's here. Let's see, we got 76. Woohoo! So any questions, Phoebe, that I've missed or anything that anybody have any questions?
I think we're good. I just asked him out as they came up. Ellen said that she's taking watercolor for joy and she loves it. So that I don't think you mentioned it, but that's the Karen thing. I'll link
Oh,
it. Yeah.
yes. So Watercolor for Joy is a watercolor course that I teach through the Willow Wonders platform. And Wendy is a fabulous teacher herself. She has one called Watercolor for Relaxation. And that one I want to take because we all need relaxation. But I love what I'm seeing, on her stuff. So yeah, Watercolor for Joy is really you do a couple of books and you do a lot of exercises that you bind into very simple books. So I'm going to show you something here because
I
remember
got
this
one
is
more
the
question for you.
yeah,
Sorry to interject.
no,
Sally asked, does the Sumi ink paintbrush clean up with water?
yes. So the one I just used, this one here. Let me grab
I
it.
think so.
Okay, so this is the SW, and I'm just putting. You can see I just put the ink in the water. That's why I have two water dishes, one for the ink, one for the watercolor, because if you don't want to mix the two, they don't, it's not a problem, but what happens is if you use a brush, let's say if I start wanting to use this for watercolor, that ink's going to be in there. It's hard to get that ink completely out. I mean, it sort of stays into kind of lives in this little area here. So I always dedicate brushes for ink I put them away. They're not to be mixed with my Western watercolors. And yes, see, even that brush, even though I let it sit with the KF series ink. I did get it's nice and ready. And let me just show you a little quick tip on cleaning your brush. So you clean it, of course, in clear water. And then you go back, you go to clear, you try to really clean it. And then with really clean water. And then when you wipe it, just take it and wipe it from the wood, from the handle out to make a tip like so. And then dry it either sort of at an angle. So or upside down. That's why there's a loop. But what I do is I just you can even just dry it like just kind of so that the sort of drips downward. If there's any liquid in this, it will come out and let it dry completely. Then you can store it however you want. But I always dry them horizontal or at a slight angle like that. And the same with any brush, that you've got. Just always clean it like this. Just give it a point, and if you have any extra hairs that happen, you can just pull those off and it's ready for the next. So I'm going to just show you, since we have just a minute, I'm going to do something. Let's see. That is a pretty flower, but it's pretty, but it needs something. So I'm going to just throw some metallic watercolors on it. I don't know if it's the smartest thing, but excuse me, I'm talking a lot. Now I'm going to go into, now these little area are grooves. They're actually kind of raised because I used that acrylic ink. Excuse me. Again, excuse me. Too much talking. All right, so I'm just going to put that ink and I'm just going to let the ink kind of well up into those little grooves. So it's a thick application of that. I think that's going to be really pretty. And this is very pigmented metallic ink, so I think it's going to look gorgeous when it dries. And I kind of like to do a variation of just different colors rather than one color only. One of those metallics, but isn't that going to be pretty? Maybe some silvery. No, I don't have a silver. Oops. I have this kind of aurora blue color. I need a silver. I got to buy a silver. If anybody knows a good silver. And here's a little, this is more of a glittery color. It might be too glittery, but I'll find it. You know me. I think I might have some silver. It's just not in this. It's not at my reach right now. Yeah, I love that. I think that's going to look really pretty. And then maybe I can add in this really gorgeous green, but it just layers. What I'm trying to say is this paper can be you can layer and layer over this paper, and it's got kind of that strong back. So you really have lots of opportunities to just play. And if you're not happy with something, you can use it, the under part, the part that you didn't like, as your base, as your layer, base or your under layer, I guess that's the word I'm trying to come up with, that you have, you can just keep working on it until you are happy with it. Because that I do that. I'm rarely just happy with the first swipe. I always have to kind of layer. It just feels better. So there we go. That is that one. And then I can put a little quote or something underneath. And that will dry really magnificently because metallics just tend to pop. You can see it already how it's gonna, but it'll pop really nice at the end. And maybe some white dots, like you can do like with your white pen, make some little marks. If I don't want to do I can just make little marks like kind of like this. That just gives a little texture. And you can see it kind of soaks in, just so you know, it's not doing floating on top. It is kind of soaking in, so the white is not as stark. It's a very soft white. I kind of like that, actually, instead of overdoing it, which can have too much stuff going on. But this looks really very subtle. I could do another layer if I wanted to pop a little bit more, but there you go. So how's everybody doing? Hope everybody has a one. Yeah, I love white pens and gel pens, but I do love a metallic here and there. Kind of reminds me of like a dragonfly or something. So I hope you enjoyed today's demo. I sure enjoyed having you. And Phoebe, is there anything that you want to talk about or mention
That's
before
so
we?
pretty. No, well, not from my end, but I just wanted to throw out there because Nancy from from Liberty Grove Art
Yeah.
Studios was asking about using Mashi Hosho for marbling of any kind, and we tried it. I know here we tried it for Sumi Nagashi, wasn't great. Have you by chance tried using Mashi Hosho for any kind of marbling?
No, I have not, but Nancy, that's a great, I think if it didn't work on the Suminagashi, so I would try the rough side. I don't know if you did the smooth side with the Suminagashi,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
try the rough side and see if it picks up the ink a little better.
Oh, all right, cool.
Well, this was fun. Thank you so much for coming. And this stays on YouTube, right? It stays as a recording, doesn't it?
This stays on YouTube as a recording, and then we're also gonna share the recording over on Facebook, but chances are if you're watching over on YouTube here with us, you'll probably come back to watch any replays